Hello everybody. Today we are going to take a look at a new feature under the B2B capability, which is the support for the Rosetta Net protocol. So first we are going to look at the basic building block, which is the setting up of connections. So under design connections, we are now able to create a Rosetta Net connection. We give a name and we can select the role trigger and invoke, which basically allows us to invoke our trading partner's Rosetta Net connection and they can trigger the Rosetta Net server on OIC. Go ahead and create it. Here we can provide the Rosetta Net service URL and add any of the security parameters that are required. And once this is filled up, we can test and save the connection. Once we're done with the setting up of connection, we can now set up the rest of the artifacts. So first we will set up the schemas, which is found under the B2B menu. Now under create, we can also find the option of Rosetta Net. So for Rosetta Net, we have to provide a schema, which is basically an XSD or a zip file containing XSDs for the Rosetta Net standard or document type we want to use. So ideally, we could have a zip file which contains all the XSDs that are related to a particular transaction, or we could also find a single XSD, which is representative of the document type we would like to use. So for in this example, we can see I'm using this confirmation XSD. And once it's loaded, we can choose the root element which is associated with it and provide a document version and a document type. We will also provide a name to the schema and then click create. Once this is done, you can see the details of this schema import. We can come out of this, and the next step is to create the documents. So under create of documents, we also now again see the same Rosetta Net option. So we'll need to provide the same document version and the document type that we just provided under the schema. We'll provide a name for this as well, and then click create. Here, now we can select the schema that we had just created. Here we also can create the business identifiers. This is again similar to what we have been doing for all the other document types that we create. This will be, since this is a XSD based document type, we will provide a valid XPath, which is part of the XSD. Where data is present within that XSD during processing will be surfaced for tracking. Now there are a few Rosetta Net specific details that needs to be provided. Things like the from role, the to role, service name, to service name, transaction. So all of these need to be provided. A particular things that I would like to highlight is the time to perform for collaboration. This is meant for document types which are generally used as two action pips, meaning there is a request and a response. For example, we have the 3A4, which is a purchase order request and a purchase order confirm combination. So when a purchase order request has been sent, we expect to receive the purchase order confirmation within the time that is set up here. So under correlation, we can provide the XPath expressions, which will be used to correlate the documents as part of the two action pips. So typically, if we again take the example of the 3A4, the purchase order request document is the initiating document. So we will specify the correlation from XPath for that particular document if that is what we're configuring. And since purchase order confirmation is a response to that initiating document, we will provide the correlation to XPath expression if we are configuring a PO confirm document. Now, whatever expression is provided here, that will be evaluated during runtime, and the value that is passed in the payload will be used to correlate the two documents. So those are the important parameters that I would like to highlight as part of the RN document creation. So once the document has been set up, we can now create a trading partner. The creation of trading partner remains the same. You create an RNTP. So we will first need to set up a B2B identifier, which is specific to RosettaNet, and it is called duns. So we can provide some value here, and this needs to match the values that are passed in the payload as course. Under transport and agreements, we can now create the RosettaNet setup. We can choose the RosettaNet connection that was created earlier, provide the RosettaNet identifiers. So as you can see, the dunce number which was configured for the identifier is what is expected here. Under receive, we will see the endpoint URL, which will be displayed once the transport has been deployed. And this URL needs to be shared with the trading partner so that they can use to send us the documents via RosettaNet. And packaging has options for signing and encrypting and compression. As always, we will also provide a TP specific prefix here, which will be used to set up the out of the box receive and send integrations for RosettaNet. So this is the transport setup. There is no changes in the inbound and outbound agreement setups. So they all remain the same. So I'm not going to go more in details about that. But this is all that is required to set up the RosettaNet trading partner. Now let's look at a live demonstration. So I already have set up, and here is my trading partner for it. You can see it has a dunce number supported here and the transport that has been deployed with inbound and outbound agreement setup. So now I'm going to trigger a payload from Postman, which is actually creating a document to be sent from the buyer instance here to my seller trading partner. So now let's step into the B2B tracking. So since I'm sending an outbound PO request, here you can see under business message an outbound document that has been created, which is RosettaNet 3A4 PO request, and the trading partner is seller, and the status is successful. Under message logs, we also see the correlation from XPath and the value that was evaluated. And if this, since this is a two action pip, you can see it is true. And in correlation, we can see a bunch of things like the wire message, the functional acknowledgement, and the instance as well. Let's quickly look at the wire message. So here you can see the transport that has been used, which is RosettaNet, and you can see associated properties, and as usual, the business message that is linked with it. Going back into these correlations, we can also see the functional acknowledgement that was sent back in response to this. We can also click on this collaboration to see all of the requests and responses that are associated with this document here. Now, since this is a two action pip, we also expect PO confirmation to be sent back. So let's simulate that. So I'm going to go to my other instance here, And I'm going to do a similar trigger from Postman, which is now going to send the PO confirmation back. So as you can see, there are a bunch of transactions here. First of all, you see the PO request that came in and the acknowledgement that was sent out. The next that you see is the PO response that was sent. And so you can see, similar to what we saw there, the XPath2 evaluated here. And under correlations, we can also see the collaboration. So when I filter that, you can see all the 4 different messages that are involved here. Quickly going back to the buyer instance, we can now see the same things here as well. So you can now see an inbound confirmation that was sent from that other instance. Similar to what we saw there, we can also see the collaboration here, and of course it groups all of these together. Now I also mentioned that we have something called as time to collaboration, and this is all successful because the exchange of the 2 action pip happened within that time to collaboration. But what if the trading partner did not send the response back in time? So here we have a request, so PO request, which was sent, but we do not, as you can see in the collaboration, we do not see any response that was sent back for this. Once it doesn't receive anything, it goes into the status timed out. Hello everybody. Today we are going to take a look at a new feature in the B2B capability called the resubmit of B2B transactions. Before we look at the feature, we will understand the nuances of the resubmit capability. So there are 2 flavors in the resubmit functionality. One is called the redeliver, which allows us to deliver the payloads back to the destination endpoints. And the second is called reprocess, which will allow us to reprocess the payload through the integrations right from the beginning of its acceptance within the platform. So with that, let's first look at reprocess. So in order to simulate a such scenario, what we have done is we have a trading partner here for whom we have disabled this integration agreement. What will happen is basically now it cannot be processed and the transaction will fail, and we'll take a look how we can use reprocess in this scenario. Other situations where reprocess could be useful is if there are some configuration at the transport level which causes the payload processing to fail. Things like wrong certificates or wrong AS2 identifiers being configured. So in such scenarios also, we can use reprocess. So what I'm going to do now is send a transaction over from Postman here. So this was successful. We'll go into our observability, and in the wire messages, we can see there is a data error. So when I look into this, the message logs, it says that the TP agreement was not found, right? So in this situation, what we can do is go back to our trading partner, deploy this. And now since this is a configuration error on our side, we do not need to go back to our trading partner and request them to send this document back again. So we come back to our wire message. and we have this button for resubmit. When we click on this, it says this will process and deliver the message again. So we click resubmit. This was resubmitted, and there we go. So here we have the latest entry, which shows it was successful, and the actual transaction which was resubmitted. You can see there's a label against it which says resubmitted. When we go into the details under correlations, we can see that there was one resubmitted message. When we click on this, it filters to the newly resubmitted message. And under correlation, again, you can go back to the original message, which was resubmitted. So this again is resubmit of an incoming document, and the same thing applies for outbound as well. For outbound, the way the resubmit would be done is through the business messages section. So let's now look at the redeliver capability. To simulate this scenario, what I'm going to do here is I have a FTP downstream application which I'm going to stop. Now I have a trading partner here who is going to send a transaction to me. Now let's go to our B2B tracking. And here we see new transactions that have come in.